you look at all languages, all, just the structure of the human mouth, and by the way, I learned this in college at Princeton as a student of music, and you were to pronounce all those vowels in order from the highest to the lowest, it would be, pardon me, this is going to sound strange, but it would be E-A-O-U. You can hear in that E-A-O-U or E-A-O-U. It's kind of the beginning, middle, and end of that. And most of the scholars that studied the name Yahweh point out that in its very earliest form, that's generally what it was represented as, including in the ancient world, is Yahweh.
But doing my research, I found that the word Yahweh actually has pagan origin.
Well, yes, it is pagan, and but it's an attempt. It's also Hebrew, and it's an attempt to capture the uncapturable. To say this is the all, as best we can express it is by saying all the vowels. How else can you say the name of something that's infinite except to try to say, the basis of all language?
So you believe the YHWH is an infinite God?
Well, it's originally, in Greek it would be Yoda, let's see, well, basically I-A-U is basically probably how you'd best spell it, the way they used to spell it in ancient Greek. But it's, that's the Yod He Vo He. That's actually the origin of that. The
okay, because and I actually put that out there with the knowledge of the origin of the word, and I wanted to be able to express that real quick.
Not just name. You also find it in deity, Deus, Deus, Jupiter.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Jupiter, that name appears in all over the world, even in Chinese name for the supreme deity. The emperor, I think it was Yu, and you'll for the one who first brought arts and crafts to human beings. So you find it universally as a name for the universal deity, or the universal spirit behind all deities, I'd say. So even if people are using it nowadays in kind of a, I don't want to say bastardized form, but, kind of a partial form as Yahweh, the name of this particular deity we worship, that's really the origin, I think, was mystics trying to capture this allness, the oneness of all, by saying, Yahu, and that's the best any human can do.
Okay. Well, I wanted to put this out there because we did the research on the Masoretes. I don't know if you're familiar with the Masoretes around the 1st century.
I've heard of that, but I don't know much about it. Masoretes?
Yeah, the Masoretes were, around during the Dark Ages, right before the Dark Ages, during the time of the Crusades, around the 10th century, you had a conversion of the Khazars into Judaism, which are the modern-day Jewish people today. But what they did was they put their hands on the ancient text, and to control, because there's power through invocation, they made sure they would pull the true name of God out of the records to hide it from the Hebrews and injected the highest, what they would call universal supreme being of their God. And but we did some Hebrew study, and we found that Yah means God or power. It don't denote a good or bad God or what God or how many gods. Yah just means God.
That's right, yeah. I mean, that's also what I've seen elsewhere.
And Hawa goes into the word in the Hebrew, mischief, falling.
Huh.
So the Yahweh actually...
Hawa?
Yeah.
Huh.
Hava means ruin, fallen, mischief. So it's the God of the falling, the God of mischief. So
have you heard of the Gnostic god Yaldabaoth?
Yes.
Have you studied any about the ancient Gnostics and what they believed?
Yes.
Okay, so probably then, they had a very similar belief that in fact the God that the Christians worship was a trickster who.
But the whole deal, I want to put this out there. There is a God over all gods. There is a God. If there's many, you must know that it had to begin with one, and his name is Ahaya. I don't want to put that out there to the brothers and sisters. He's the God of the Hebrews. Ahaya is his name. The I am that I am always existed. All right. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you here, because this is getting quite interesting.
I agree, it is.
and some questions were sent to me, so some of these questions are not my questions. It's what others just want to know. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
One question, and I wouldn't ask this question, and I don't really care about this, but I'm just asking because it was sent to me to ask. Is there any what you will call sexual rituals within paganism?
Yes, there are. Pagans, Wiccans in particular, I can speak for, do believe that the sex and the body can be sacred and should be sacred, and there's a certain kind of energy that's raised during the sexual act that does play a role in some really certain.
Now, when I'm talking about this, what they're asking in particular is like when people see the movies Eyes Wide Shut, where there would be societies where there was orgies going on.
Yeah.
Is orgies part of these sexual rituals?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Some of the old covens, they were. You have to imagine these are very staid and proper English men and women that are in this very repressed Victorian society. So when they had a chance to cut loose, they cut loose.
That's nothing that you all are a part of.
That's not. No. In fact, we even discourage people from. Let me put it this way: we don't want people to use our coven as a dating service. So we.
But is it unlawful? Let me ask you this: is it unlawful amongst Wiccans and pagans? Are there groups that do operate in those types of activities?
There may well be. I haven't. I can't say that I know any personally, but it certainly is. As long as everybody's treating one another with respect and care, and then it's not unlawful. However, we find it kind of impractical and imprudent because people tend to get a lot of things tied up with sex. They think, well, are you still going to see me tomorrow? No, I've got to go back to my wife. I mean, that's it's just too tangled, and it's just too much pain often comes out of that. So we, while we don't discourage the kind of sexual tension between opposites, and that is an important part of magic, we don't let people date each other. Well, we discourage them from doing it. We say, if you're going to do it, please go somewhere else, join another coven.
Okay. So really, that's really a segue into one of my final questions with you here, brother, and that's it leads me to my next question that I have to ask you. All right, because you said that man, this is kind of wild, man. But anyway.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, okay. When you said that's one of the things that's within your magic or whatever, leading to magic here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we were going here.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I would have.
I'm going here because I need to ask you a question. Is it possible, or can it be done? Do pagans cast spells on people? I'm not asking you, are they supposed to? I'm not asking you about black or white magic. If a pagan wanted to, could they cast a spell against a person?
Yes, they could, and that's why we have a really strong tradition of ethics in the craft. Well, in Wicca and witchcraft, and that's one thing where, in order to progress in almost all pagan religions and learn to use that kind of magic, that's why almost all cultures, including witches, pagan groups, require that you become a priest or priestess, so you be trained in how to use that properly and ethically and not use it to harm others. We have one principle that all witches agree on, and it's called the law of threefold return. And, different ones express it a different way, but that's usually what we call it. And it's basically, if you cast a curse on someone, be prepared for it to backfire on you. What you put out there is going to come around back to you sooner or later. You could call it karma. You could call it the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But there's basically kind of a reciprocity that goes on that, whereas if you bless someone, expect that blessing to return also. So, yeah, we say that we do have the power to bless and to curse. But generally, people, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, as public witches, people are calling us all the time asking us to curse someone. And
that's a shame.
Yeah, well, sometimes people have really, righteous grievances against someone who's been cheating on them or, maybe raped someone close to them, that sort of thing, But what we really encourage them to do is to say, wait a minute, step back from that first impulse of wanting to hit back with the same thing you got hit with, and there is magic you can do, but it may have to do with restraining that person from doing further harm. It may have to do with ensuring that justice comes to bear.
So what you're saying, there's laws in being a witch or dealing with witchcraft. There's laws within that. Yeah,
there are really strong ethical principles that
but someone
really
could with this knowledge do some serious deadly harm.
Not really, no. Let me put it this way.
If you got to think about it, brother, that means someone can do some things.
I actually was targeted by a curse one time. That's what made me pause. I remember I never knew where it came from, who put it on me, or I had a pretty good idea of why, but it came very close to killing me, and I had to do some serious magic to stop it. And that's
it seems like a Harry Potter story here.
Well,
let me ask.
It was actually.
Okay. Let me ask you. Okay, let me ask you this, because there's a few things I just have to bring. You know what I mean? And a couple of. Another question I had is UFOs.
Yes. Okay.
UFO activity. What is a Wiccan or witch's take on the truth of UFOs, or what the government is not saying concerning unidentified flying objects? Is some of these gods that are being worshipped, or are they a part of some of these beings or these spacecrafts that be disappearing and appearing? What do a Wiccan say concerning UFOs? Well,
kind of the consensus is that no, they're not gods, because they won't come when you call them. Whereas gods usually do.
Hey, seems like you got God popping up with some of your rituals, so.
Well,
but you talking about the UFOs here? Have you ever encountered?
It's hard to get an alien to show up when you want them to. but no, we do believe that life is so vast and so complex, but that we also tend to believe that any culture that's out there that's been around a lot longer and maybe a lot wiser than current human society is proving to be at the moment.
No, I just got a question to me. They just want to know if you ever experienced that. So let's get back to something we all can relate to now. And stick with me, Steve, here, because we on a roll here.
maybe, yeah, go right ahead.